Hey, Kassie, I'm so excited that you are here on the Sarah Hall Show today. We've been talking about this for a little while, so I'm glad we finally got you on. And I'm really interested to get into like your story and how you became, an expert in the gut health arena. I know for me, I feel sometimes so uneducated in that department. So I know a lot of people will either be struggling with gut issues and need your help or looking to learn a little bit more, about how they can become an expert in gut health too. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the field of gut health.
Yeah, first off, I want to say I am very excited to be here. So I've been looking forward to this. But yeah, so I actually initially started with intuitive eating when I was thinking about coming into the business world. And I was just sick and tired of, I currently work in a hospital as well, and this is just not where I'm thriving. And so I decided that I wanted to enter the entrepreneur world. And I didn't really, after some time, felt like intuitive eating aligned with me. And then I have struggled with chronic digestive issues my entire life, been pushed off, told it's just IBS, eliminate these foods. And I hear this all the time with clients. And I will have clients that are constipated for 20 years and their doctor's like, just take Miralax.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. So, that's what brought me into this field. And I just found that, it's just so interesting because everything is connected to our gut. And I feel like we just don't talk about that enough. So that's where I decided to dive into the gut health world.
So I want to talk about two things you just said. One was, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but basically that you're falling out of alignment somewhat with like the hospital world. And I think a lot of us can relate to that because I was in the hospital setting for years and years. And before that, I was in long-term care. And I just almost felt like I was on this hamster wheel of like, bring them in, bring them out, and never really making the kind of impact that I wanted to make. And so can you talk a little bit about like, when you started to recognize that and how you said, you know what, I can do both. I can work at the hospital till I get established. Because I think so many people think it has to be one or the other. And I had my business and my job for almost 4 years. And sometimes that's the sacrifice we have to make. So wondered if you wanted to share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So honestly, I wasn't a traditional student. I graduated college when I was 27. And so I transferred right out of my internship right into a role that I was already doing an internship with. And I knew then that it just didn't align with me because I kind of, like you said, it was that hamster wheel. I just felt like it was this rotating door of clients I never got to follow up with. I never got to see the end for them. And I felt like I currently feel like I'm not really making that much of an impact because I spend most of my day charting. Yeah. And so that is where it's like, I want to have that passion. So I do both currently. And I did take a small step back where I work 9 days a week or every 2 weeks instead of 10 to give to my business. But it's not impossible. I did take a small step back because I wasn't ready to take a full step back, and I'm still working my way up there. But it is very doable if you make sure that you're time blocking, which is something that I am just now learning more so how to do, but also making sure you're not, in that productive culture where you feel like you constantly have to go, go, go. You have to make sure you're also giving yourself that break. But yeah, totally doable. But I know in the end, I'm going to be transitioning fully into my business.
Right. Well, I find it interesting that, some people think it has to be, again, all or nothing, right? Like you got 24 hours back of your life. And even if it's just one day transitioning, it is a step in the right direction of potentially being full time. But I just want to make a comment about that because I think so many times it's almost like we don't feel good enough because we haven't quit our job yet, right? Like I went through a spiral of like, I was making so much money and like I felt like people were judging me because I hadn't quit my job yet, but I was over here making $30K a month in my business while working a full-time job. So like, tell me what's wrong with that. You know what I mean? And sometimes I get people say, well, I haven't quit my job yet, and I'm like, so what? Does that mean that's the epitome of success that you quit your job? Like, it's about where you are and where you're trying to go. And I'm like you, I'm a very stable person. Quitting my job was a scary thing. I worked for the federal
Hmm.
government. It was scary to just let it go. And so I love that you're actually sharing that, like, you know what? I got one day back and that's 24 hours, girl. Of course, you're going to be sleeping part of that. But still,
Right.
even if you took 4 hours of that day, 4 hours in a business, like you be proud of that because that is an amazing transition. I just wanted to make note of that.
Thank you.
Um, and
It
I'm,
also gives me time away from my fiance where I'm just alone because
yeah,
he's at work and I can
yeah.
focus on my business.
Yeah, or you could take a day off, like
Yeah.
work in business. Like you don't have to work all the time. You could do a little bit of business, a little bit of Target or something like that.
Yep.
And, I actually went to my job and asked them, like, hey, can I cut down to part time? And they said the answer is no.
Mm.
So that is another reason why I wasn't able to do the transition like you're doing. And so many of my clients are able to do. But those of you listening, the moral of this story is you don't have to do it one way or the other. Do it in what's right for you and figure out, like, do I even want to quit my job? Maybe it's not what you really want to do, but it's what you think your peers are going to think about you if you don't. So I love that. And the other thing that you said in the beginning that I wanted to touch on and have you expand on because you're so smart at this. And, while we were working together, I learned so much just from your content and stuff. When you said the gut is connected to everything. Can you explain more? Because I have so many entrepreneurs that are in like hormonal gut issues all day long from burnout and things like that. And I know it's all interrelated, right? So
Right.
can you like explain your philosophy on like the gut being connected to everything?
Yeah. So basically, like one of the biggest key pieces that I see, especially with clients, and can also be the biggest barrier, is kind of like what you said with your clients that are entrepreneurs and they get all these gut issues, is the stress piece.
Yeah.
It's huge, and that also plays a big role in our gut health. And I don't mean only just mental stress. We're looking at physiological stress. So, are you actually eating 3 meals a day to fuel your body and prevent those blood sugar roller coasters? Because if you're not, we start to see cortisol levels go up. So your stress hormone, and then it's going to drive down other processes in the body, causing like constipation and bloating. And so, really, just once those things start to get unregulated and our cortisol levels pop up, that's a hormone. So that's going to mess with your hormones. We start to see estrogen dominance. So people start to see like lots of PMS or lots of really just uncomfortable periods all tied to their gut. And then it just impacts our quality of life. So it just kind of has this key piece in so many parts of our life. And then looking at, I lost my train of thought.
You're good. I lose my train of thought all the time.
Yeah. So, just like inflammation in the body, and we see it tied to just different types of systemic issues. So, it really just plays a huge role in everything. And a lot of the time, what I see people say or do or think is, I can take this greens powder and we're just going to be
Mm.
all better. And no, there are so many other things that we have to do before we start to find relief. So it's not just testing. So I offer testing in my program, and I have some clients that are like, I just want this test and give me the supplements and we're good. And I'm like, if you're not doing all these other things, it doesn't matter how many supplements you take. It's like throwing spaghetti at a wall at that point. Like, it might stick, but your symptoms are probably going to come back. So it's just everything, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the greens powder and stuff, I mean, there's even like hair and makeup brands out there now just selling random green supplements, and it's like really good marketing, right? Like you won't be bloated anymore if you just take this twice a day. And, I think it just
Yeah.
elicits this like quick fix response in our society, which almost everything does these days. But like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if someone came to you and said, I just feel like I'm bloated literally like 20 days out of the month. I mean, that's not normal, right? And so what would be step one? Would you start out with a test, or what do you normally do? I'd love to go through like the flow of, how you benefit your clients and what you really recommend. Like, we're not putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound with supplements. Those are a part of it, but like you do so much more. And I want our listeners to really see like what you do in case, they're struggling with something like this.
Yeah. So just like you said, we all think that we want just this magic pill and it's going to fix everything. And that's not really our fault because we see it a lot in the medical system. And so with my clients, instead of just throwing a pill or sending them to the doctor for medication, I have my clients, when they first enter the program, do a really in-depth GI assessment. So we're looking at not just their symptoms, but their medical history, their habits, past trauma, anything that may be coordinated with or like tied into what could be causing their symptoms or that root cause. And then I also have them tracking their symptoms based off of not just the gut, but do they have lots of seasonal allergies that can be rooted from the gut? Are they having skin issues that can be rooted from the gut? So we really just want to identify different areas before I even have my clients do the testing, and areas that they can start working on, which is what I call the foundations. So I have had clients, like I said previously, come into the program and they're like, give me the test. And I'm like, well, if I just give you the test, we're not going to see why these issues showed up in the first place. So why are you so bloated all the time? Yes, there might be overgrowth or something in your gut, but how did it get there? And so we need to figure out that portion. So the testing, like I mentioned, is going to just give us a really good look at the environment, and we can address those issues, and we do within like the second month of working together. And then I do have clients taking supplements, but we are still constantly working on their habits, making sure they're getting plenty of sleep, not just what they're eating, but how they're eating, looking at stress management levels, trauma, have things that we can do to help support our nervous system. So just a bunch of different areas. And then we are constantly troubleshooting their symptoms. So it's really a puzzle, and we have to find all the dots. So I have my program out for 6 months because it's not a cookie cutter program. It's all very, very individualized. And sometimes we have to do some troubleshooting and start looking at other areas of the body. So like I said, you don't get this magic pill. It's a lot of troubleshooting. It's a lot of, you have to do the work if you want to see success. And my clients know that coming into the program.
Yeah. And I want to make a business point here. And then I want to talk about stress, because I think I always use the word normal people, but what I mean is non-entrepreneurs, like moms, career women, things like that. Like, those women have a set of stress, and then entrepreneurs have a set of stress. But there were also things that, even as a professional, a dietitian, and an entrepreneur, I didn't really consider stress. So I want to talk about that for a second. The other thing I want to talk about is the 6-month length. So if some of you are coaches or, business owners, you have got to stop setting your clients up for failure with 1-session bundles or 3-session bundles. I love, Kassie, how you are just adamant. Like, you want a transformation. This is a process. One stone overturns another stone, overturns another. And we have to piece together this whole puzzle or pile of stones one at a time. And that's not going to happen in 1 session or 3 sessions, or just putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound with a test and, oh, here, you're on your merry way, right? And I think it's twofold. I think it's the mindset of the person selling whatever it is. You have to get in your mind, like, I don't do anything for less than 6 months in my program either. Most of my clients learn that that's just silly for transformation. And ultimately, I think some people really need to work with their service provider, their coach, no matter if it's like business, mindset, gut health, or whatever, for like 12 plus months sometimes. And I think we should just make that the new norm in service providership, because it's like, I just think it comes down to your mindset. Like, the transformation is going to happen at 6 months. That is what this is. You have to accept this, right? And you're bold in that, like, you want a transformation. This is the offer. But so many times entrepreneurs and coaches, especially newer ones, don't do that. They're like, oh, I'll just do a call with you, or sure, I can do the test for you. Don't be so passive, y'all. Like, tell them what's good for them. So Kassie, did you have some sort of transformation of like your own mindset of like, I'm doing a 6-month program because that's what's best for them and it's what's best for my business? Or did you just go straight in like, nope, this is what my clients need?
I actually have extended my program 3 times now. So I started out with 3, felt like I wasn't enough, went to 4, and then I was like, because I was so nervous to move to that 6-month mark,
Yeah.
because I was like, I'm not going to get anyone to sign up because they're going to be like 6 months. And no, I found that that 6-month mark is where the clients start to take it seriously, because they're like, I'm sick of the Band-Aid fixes. I'm sick of not knowing what's going on. And those are my most successful clients. And I feel like I get to get them real answers and real solutions. But that took me a long time to understand that. And even just like going on that, like raising the cost of my program with that, because that is a long commitment. And
Yeah.
I feel like I give kind of like you that hybrid / one-on-one, and that has been like a really great plan for my clients and I, and having it for 6 months and having that complete touch base all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of like quitting your job. It's okay to baby step. You know, it's okay to
Yeah.
like give yourself permission to baby step your prices up. Give yourself, permission to baby step the length of your program. Not everyone can just. I'm kind of like that too. I tend to play it safe in my life. The older I get and the longer I've been an entrepreneur, I'm less safe. I definitely make decisions faster, but I'm like you. I would rather baby step things up. I've always baby stepped up the length of my program. I've always baby stepped up my prices. I've always baby stepped up like adding things to social media and doing new types of things. But there is that type of person out there that's like, oh no, don't give me the baby steps. I'm going to go straight to 6 months. I'm going to go straight to $1,000 a month. And that's okay too, right? I think there's 2 types of people. So the lesson here is you can be like Kassie and myself and baby step up, or you can just go crazy and advance all at once. I do find that's a little more overwhelming. And I think that's what goes wrong in all types of transformations, even your clients. Like they come in and they want you to tell them 10 things to change all at once, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably like, hold on, like 10 things at once, you're going to get overwhelmed. So that's where that 6-month program can come in as well.
And I think it's, I was going to say, it's really important to realize that your business is going to continue to evolve. Like that was really hard for me too, it was like, I want this perfect business right now and it to be streamlining perfectly. And that's not the case. Every month, a few months, I feel even more confident in my business, but it's not going to be perfect that first time. And I'm not always going to have all the answers. And those were 2 things that were huge barriers that I have finally like come over.
So the stress component that you mentioned earlier, I want to go back to that because I feel like so many quote normal people, right? Like moms, career women, nurses, people that you work with, right? Non-entrepreneurs, they have a certain type of stress, burning the candle at both ends, having to juggle multiple hats, go from work to sporting events to, taking care of family or doing whatever it is that they do, right? Extracurricular activities. Then you put a spin on it as an entrepreneur. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the first couple of years, is spent pushing a boulder up a hill. So what I have found, and I did this myself, so I can call myself out, and I can call other people out because I'm not being condescending. Like I actually lived this life. It's 5 cups of coffee to just power through. It's still trying to work out 2 hours a day because oh, well, I still need to look a certain way as well. I need to be healthy as well. So now I'm going to power through that. It's sleeping 5 hours a night. It's trying a new diet, every 45 days or 10 days. And a few years ago, it just really dawned on me, all of that is stress too. I don't think I realized, even as a dietitian. So you can be the most educated person, but I think most people don't realize what stress is. They just think, oh, I'm worried in that stress, or oh, I'm nervous in that stress, or oh, I'm going through like some major life change, like a breakup or a divorce, and that's stress. But what do you have to add about the other forms of stress that I don't think most of your ideal clients or any of other people's ideal clients actually realize that they have in their life outside of like worrying and overthinking and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So again, my pay or like what I see with my clients and even with myself is something that I've been working on is skipping meals. So not purposely, like breakfast is the biggest one because everybody's in this, oh, I've got to get to work. I'm too busy to eat breakfast. And that is just setting your day up for failure. That's setting your day up for that blood sugar roller coaster, more hormones of stress being released. And then we also see things like lack of sleep, running on the caffeine. That was one that I had a huge one for. We should not be drinking caffeine by 2 p.m. We're still feeling like we haven't had any caffeine and we didn't sleep all night. So sleep is huge. And then burnout, like I know that that is a mental stress, but if we are constantly just like go, go, go and not taking that step back, that's just going to run our stress levels up and make them out of whack. So one of the bigger things that I see again is facing is the blood sugar balance. That is huge. And then eating while you're distracted, another stressor that can cause digestive issues because you're just in that constant state of fight or flight. You're not slowing down. You're not allowing your body to be like, hey, we're about to start digesting our food. So we need to bring the blood back to the digestion. So slowing down, making sure you're chewing your food, also getting sleep, getting that 3 meals a day. Those are all going to be huge in managing your stress.
Yeah. And even like blue lights, right? Like I didn't realize blue lights, and I'm like picky about it now for my daughter because I'm like, oh no, you're not going up with all these stresses. Like, but even the 5 cups of coffee a day, I used to do it all the time. I would literally do it all the time. And then I would wonder why I was like an anxious, nervous mess. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like what you said in the very beginning, it's all related and stress plays a huge role. But I think most people just power through a wall, particularly women that wear a lot of hats or are entrepreneurs, power through a wall. I don't identify stress. I don't even feel it. Like, but there's so many places where stress is living in the body, right? And then it comes out in some of these GI symptoms or skin issues, like you said, energy. Like it's not just I'm tired today, I need more coffee. It's all the other things in a well-rounded, little bubble. I don't know. I could just talk about this all day because I think it's so important for like, especially females. Now, men, I do agree. They should be worried about this too, but I predominantly work with females, predominant female audience on this podcast. And I just think particularly in busy women, moms, career women, entrepreneurs, this is just not talked about enough. So if someone were to be experiencing like bloating, skin issues, just feeling blah, feeling like they're surviving on caffeine, etc., you would suggest looking at, like your program, for an example, or working with someone like you, to say, hey, this is all interrelated and it's likely something to do with obviously lifestyle or your gut. And they should take action on that, right? Versus like letting their doctor tell them to take Miralax.
Yeah. Or, hey, it's IBS. It's normal.
Yeah.
Please be on your way. Like that's where I see the most is it's IBS. You're good.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to put your links and everything down in the show notes. So I think this can be really eye-opening for people to say like, oh man, maybe there is something wrong. Cause I think for years I just like, oh, it's just me getting older or whatever, like it's my hormones. Like I would tell myself that before I really started to say like, I need to dig into this and see what's actually causing some of these symptoms. So I love that we're talking about it. Now let's switch back to business as we're wrapping up the podcast. Like, what do you think is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned as you've been building your business? And I know you said like one was realizing that business was going to evolve. It's not going to be like perfect from the jump. And, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that or if you have something else that's been a big lesson for you.
The biggest is comparing myself. That has been huge, especially other GI practitioners. My business is not going to grow the same rate as theirs. I don't see so like the biggest thing for me, like in the beginning was I was like, wow, I'm posting the way that they're posting. Wow, I'm doing these similar tips, even if it wasn't somebody in my niche. And I will say, getting a business coach was probably one of my best investments, because I truly did not know what goes into the behind the scenes. And so I wasn't seeing how these practitioners were communicating with their leads, their clients, nurturing them. So I thought it was a post and go, hoping that I get clicks on my application. And that just was not working. And accepting that, like, I do need to invest in myself was huge, because my standard education did not give me the tools that I needed to grow my own business. And then being confident in why I do the things I do in my business. Like, I did face some backlash initially, like with not doing the testing right away. And I was like, but this is why I'm doing it. And just being confident in, like, not letting, whether it be another practitioner or just anyone, put their 2 thoughts into your business, because not every business is the same. And so, yeah, confidence has been the biggest thing for me moving forward.
I just really think it's the secret ingredient, and gaining confidence is really an internal work thing. But I also think it can be like when you see things starting to like pay off, when you learn through like the right language and you see, oh, this is how I stop just posting and waiting. And this is how I actually get someone interested or nurture them once they are interested, or this is how I handle that objection, or this is how I show my client why I don't test in month 1 and I save that for month 2. It's really all about positioning. And I think with the right positioning, then you see the results, and then the confidence kind of comes with the repetition, right? It feels like that is, for me, over my 10 years, what has happened, but also what I see in you guys. And I think that's all good, valuable things, because so many times people are just focusing on reels and all these front-facing things. But you're right. We have the front-facing stuff. We have the storefront of our businesses, which can be our social media. But keeping the business open is all in the back door, just like a boutique. Like, they can flip the open sign on, but if their employees don't show up for the day, who's going to check out in the register, and who's going to try on clothes with people, and who's going to do all that. So same thing with business. So what would you tell someone if they're like, I kind of want to start a business, I'm working a job, I'm like Kassie, I have these interests? What would you say your first step would be for someone, like, even if they just say they didn't have the money to hire a coach, they just wanted to get out there and do some, work on social media or whatever? Do you have a quick tip for somebody that may want to build a business?
Yeah, I would say just go for it. You don't have to be an expert in it. Even if you're not 100% sure, like, what your niche is going to be, I have pivoted my niche, and that's okay. But you're not going to know what you're good at and what you're super interested in until you actually go for it. So I would just say, start posting, start talking to people, start telling them what you have to offer or how you can help them. And the confidence will come. It will feel very foreign, and you may feel a little bit lost. So if you don't have the money for a coach right now, that's okay. But we all start somewhere. We all start at the bottom. So that's okay.
Yeah. And I think the whole title for this episode should be Evolution, because it just, it brings me back to my own story, and like evolving with your offer, evolving with how you treat clients, evolving with your niche, evolving with your confidence, like being okay with that too. Like, I feel like so many people think they're a failure because they started at one niche and now they're in another one. Like, no, that just means you got out there and you took a leap of faith and figured out what you did and didn't like. I mean, that's the positive side of it, right? So,
Right.
What's the last thing that you are excited about for 2023? Or what's the thing you're excited about for 2023 that you want to share?
I'm just super excited overall. I feel like, for me, I hired on, maybe not like my first team member, but somebody to actually help me with my business and the accounting portion. So that has been huge. I am not an admin person, so that
Me
was
neither.
just it was so nice to finally be in that spot where I can move forward with that. And I'm just excited to see what this year brings, as my business turns a year old in April. And yeah, I'm just so excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for you too. And I really appreciate you being on and talking through this. We'll get all your notes down in the show notes so people can find you and look for your service. We'll put your program video and things there. So I'm really excited for 2023, girl. Thanks for being on the show
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, thank you so much.